Hey guys, thank you so much for being a part of the quest. I am very appreciative of, the hosts opening up their homes, and I'm very appreciative of all the guests coming out and just watching this very short series. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the purpose for your life. I think everybody gets to the place in their life where they start to ask questions like, why am I here and what am I supposed to be doing with my life? That is basically a question of contribution. I think everybody wants to make a contribution with their life. As a matter of fact, I honestly believe that we are wired to make a contribution. If we don't make a contribution with our lives, then we get depressed. There's a reason why the word miser is the root word for the word miserable. People that are misers with their time and their talents and their energy and their resources, people that are always in the position of I want to get and never give, they're miserable people. And you're going to find that the people in life that have the most joy are the most generous. Generosity and joy go hand in hand because, again, we were wired to make some kind of a contribution with our lives. And they actually did a study on an act of kindness. And it's crazy because if you perform an act of kindness for somebody else or an act of generosity or whatever it may be, it literally releases chemicals in your brain. Chemicals like endorphins and oxytocin and serotonin and all these different, chemicals that are the pleasure chemicals. Scientifically speaking, it feels good to do good. It feels good to make a contribution. So the main reason why I started this series, the opening talk, was basically about God and is God real and does God really exist, is because it's very difficult to find your purpose in life if God's not a part of the equation. And the reason I say that is because, your purpose revolves around God. And the reason it revolves around God is because God is the one that made you. There's a verse in the Bible, and I know I'm backing this up with the Bible, and there may be some people that don't believe the Bible, but it's an amazing verse. Psalm 100 and verse 3, the Bible says, "Know that the Lord is God. He made us and we belong to Him." I love that little phrase in that verse. It says, He made us and we belong to Him. It just makes sense that whoever makes something owns it. And whoever makes something gets to choose the purpose for whatever it is that they make. If you think about it, because God made us, God got to choose everything about us. He chooses our size, He chooses our color, He chooses our shape. He chooses, where we live and when we live, and literally all of those things He chooses. And I always say if there's somebody that has a problem with you because of the way you look or your size or your shape or whatever it may be, I'm going to tell you something. They don't have a problem with you. They have a problem with God, because God's the one that chose everything about you. I love Acts chapter 17 and verse number 26. It says that God began by making one person, and from Him came all the different people who live everywhere in the world. God decided exactly when and where they must live. To me, that talks about intentionality. That talks about design. That talks about purpose. That says that there is a God who intentionally made you exactly the way you are, down to the smallest detail of who you are. And He caused you to live where you live and when you live for a purpose and for a reason. I guess what I'm saying is there's literally nothing about your life that's random, right down to the place and the time that you live, because God's the one that did all of that. So God is the one who, when He made you, decided what your purpose would be. And the cool thing about that is, God didn't just make us and say, good luck, hope you find your purpose. Good luck, hope you find how to have a fulfilling life. He didn't do that. And the reason He didn't do that was because He gave us a roadmap. He made us and gave us a roadmap. He gave us a roadmap to purpose, a roadmap to how to have a fulfilled life. The roadmap's the Bible. It's obviously a hit because, it sold 5 billion copies worldwide. What that tells me is that people in Russia and people in China and people in India and people in America and people in fill in the blank, they're all interested in finding out what their purpose is because people are going to the Bible to figure it out. Billions of people are. So it's completely and totally transcultural. Doesn't matter where you live in the world. Doesn't matter what language you speak. Everybody wants to know their purpose, and billions of people are going to the Bible to try to figure it out. One thing that I know is that God makes it really, really clear what our purpose is. I think sometimes trying to figure out, our life's purpose is sometimes a little confusing, and we think it's difficult, but it's not confusing and it's not difficult. As a matter of fact, it's relatively simple, because God says that our purpose all pretty much boils down to one word, and the one word is love. When I think about love and I think about God, I think about the fact that God really, in a sense, made me to love me, and then He gave me a free will so that I could choose to love Him back. That's why my love for Him is so, and your love for Him is so huge, because you choose to do it. That's why love is special. I mean, love wouldn't be special if somebody forced you to love them. That would be creepy. That wouldn't be nice. That'd be creepy. God doesn't force you to love Him. God gives you a choice to love Him. There's an awful lot of, attention on love in our world, because, even in America, there's never been more songs written about any other topic than love. When it comes to a book genre, the most popular and best-selling book genre of all time is the genre of romance. And I think that's because people are looking for love, and people are interested in love. And so God says the two most important things that you can do with your life are love God and love people. Love Him and love people. If you have a list of things you're trying to do before you die, make sure these two things are on the list, because they're the two most important things that you will do with your life, is loving God and loving people. To love really is more important than anything else, because love is more powerful than your accomplishments. It's more powerful than your money. It's more powerful than your status. Love is the most powerful thing that you will ever do. That's why you're on this earth, to love. It's a powerful thing. I love 1 Corinthians 13. It talks about the power of love. And it says that we may have a lot of powerful abilities, but if we don't do what we do for the motive of love, if we don't love, then everything that we could ever possibly do or accomplish is a big fat waste if love's not a part of it. That's how powerful love is. And I'll read you the verse. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse number 1 says this: "If I speak with human eloquence and angelic ecstasy, but don't love, then I'm nothing but the creaking of a rusty gate." In other words, God basically says, I could be the greatest communicator in the history of earth, but if I'm not doing it for love, then I'm just making noise. I'm just making noise. Love has to be the reason I do what I do. Verse 2 says, if I speak God's word with power, and I reveal all of its mysteries, and I make everything plain as day, and if I have faith so that I could say to a mountain, jump, and it jumps, but I don't love, then the Bible says I'm nothing. Verse 3 says, if I give everything I own to the poor, and even go to the stake to be burned as a martyr, but I don't love, I've gotten nowhere. No matter what I say, no matter what I believe, no matter what I do, I'm bankrupt without love. That's God's way of telling us in black and white that the most powerful thing that you will ever be a part of is love. And that you were put on this earth to love. And that the motive behind everything that you do and say and think has got to be in some way, shape, or form love. Because if not, it's a big fat waste. Matthew 22:37 through 40 are the verses that talk about the two most important things you do with your life. Verse number 37 says, Jesus replied, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is equally important. He says, love your neighbor as yourself. And then it says, the entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments. I love how God says that. He says, if you could love God and love people, then you're going to get credit for all the other commandments. If you could do these two commandments, you get credit for all of them. And a lot of times we think, well, the Jews had 10 commandments. Trust me, they had a whole lot more than 10 commandments. They had 613 commandments. So God is saying, if you could do these two, you get credit for all 613. That's like your teacher coming in to your class on exam day, final exam, and basically says, the final exam has 613 questions. But if you can get 1 and 2 right, you get an A. You get credit for all of them. I mean, you think, okay, this is doable. In other words, God says that's how powerful love is. So 2 things really fast. God says, I want you to love me. I want you to love me. So love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. What else would God want other than a relationship if he comes to you and says, please love me with everything that you have? all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your strength. I mean, who says that? I'll tell you who says that. Somebody that wants a relationship with you. Does your boss, before he or she meets with you, do they meet with you and they say, hey, before we get into this meeting and before we get into work today, I want you to love me with everything. No one says that. Why? Because it's not that kind of a relationship. Your boss just wants you to do your job and do it well. Clean up this row, stock this shelf, take this inventory, do your job, check the box. That's religion. Religion is do your job. Do this, don't do this, check this box. I'm gonna tell you, people that are in the check the box mentality, like when it comes to going to church or doing something good for somebody, it's religion. God says, let's get out of the check the box thing and let's fall in love. I want you to love me, with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. Have you ever loved anything with everything? Have you ever loved someone in your life with everything in your life? It's like God is saying, don't get to the end of your life without experiencing what it's like to love somebody with everything. Don't get to the end of your life without experiencing your purpose in life, because you loving me with all your heart, soul, and mind is your purpose. The second thing is this. He says, I want you to love people. And the crazy thing is Jesus says this includes everybody. And when he says everybody, he means everybody, because he even says he wants us to love our enemies. It's almost like he's saying, look, it's easy to love people that love you back, but it's a challenge to love people that hate your guts. It's a challenge to love people that don't care about you or don't give a rip about you or have tried to hurt you or whatever. But God says the only way you're going to really make a difference in life when it comes to love is by loving the people that are hard to love. And I think that's honestly one of the reasons why God puts people into our lives that are hard to love. He's giving us an opportunity to change the world. If you want to change the world, it's going to take love, and it's going to take a lot of love. If you want to change your marriage, it's going to take love. If you want to change a friendship, it's going to take love. If you want to change your children, it's going to take love. If you want to change a relationship you have with an enemy, it's going to take love. I know that sounds radical, but radical love is a powerful thing. I think there's a reason why, after Stephen said when they were stoning him to death, Stephen basically says, Lord, lay not this sin to their charge. And a guy by the name of Saul of Tarsus is listening to everything that Stephen is saying. And later on, his name is changed to Paul, and he becomes Paul the Apostle. From Saul, the mad dog of Tarsus, to Paul the Apostle, the greatest missionary that ever walked the planet. And I honestly believe with all my heart that Stephen's radical love while he was being executed had a lot to do with what was going on in Paul's mind. I think when Jesus says, Father, forgive them for they don't know what they're doing, it goes a long way towards a Roman soldier who was the one who just put him to death, looking up at the cross saying, surely this was the Son of God. Surely this was the Son of God. Why? Well, because love is a radical thing. Love is a powerful thing. And if you want to change the world, then you love. If you want to make a difference, then you love. The best way to love someone is to serve them. And the reason I say that is because talk is cheap and actions speak louder than words. You can go to your neighbor and say, I love you. Or you can mow their lawn. You can tell them you love them. Or you can watch their house when they go on vacation. You can tell them you love them, or you can make them a meal when they're down, when they're sick, or when they have a need. Actions speak louder than words. And I think, when we serve the people around us, that's really what makes a difference. And again, there's not a coincidence that the purpose of your life is to love people with action. And it's connected with the fact that your brain produces chemicals that make you feel good and give you pleasure when you do it. I remember one time, I'm sitting at a traffic light in my truck. There's a guy on a Harley Davidson in front of me. For whatever reason, he loses his balance and the Harley Davidson is over on the ground. He jumps off of it out of the way, doesn't get hurt. I put my truck in park. I run up to the man. I say, are you okay? He says, I'm fine. He goes, let me help you. I said, let me help you pick up your motorcycle. So we picked up the motorcycle. He got back on. He looked at me and he said, thank you so much for helping me. And then he just drove off because the light was green. I got back in my truck, and I'm going to tell you something. I felt amazing. I felt like a superhero. I felt like I had an S on my chest. It must have been dopamine or endorphins being released in my brain because I did something for someone. All I know is I turned up my radio a little bit louder. I sang a little bit louder, and I was on the lookout for anybody else on a Harley Davidson who would fall over, because I wanted to help someone else. It's like, it's not only something that feels good to help and serve and love somebody, but it's something that is contagious, because now this person on that motorcycle probably wants to help somebody, and I'm looking to help somebody else, and love is a powerful thing. I want to close by saying Albert Einstein wrote a letter to his daughter about love. Of course, the man was a genius completely, but this is what he said in his letter. If we want our species to survive, if we are to find meaning in life, if we want to save the world and every sentient being that inhabits it, love is the one and only answer. And that comes from a pretty smart man, who was pouring into his daughter and teaching her the value of love. We all want to be loved, but also to show love. And so what I would say is this: your purpose is not as hard to figure out as you think. It completely and totally revolves around the one who made you, which is God. And it's as simple enough as one word. It all boils down to love. So I say 3 things: love God, love people, and change the world.